I figured it was time to do some friendlies. Oh, because it is so depressing to look at the loonies.
Congressman Jim Jordan from the great state of Ohio and John Lee Ratcliffe, who's a former U.S. attorney, former congressman from the great state of Texas, and former director of D&I under President Trump. All right, gentlemen, I mean that. The two most knowledgeable people in terms of contrasting the way the department and the Bureau may treat Republicans versus Democrats. You've got allegations of collusion with Russia, and you have Hillary Clinton and her documents. Jimmy, I will start with you. For those who say gather the facts, gather the evidence, it also matters who's gathering the facts and whether you have confidence in them, right?
No, you're exactly right. I would just throw out the name Kevin Kleinsmith. Remember, this is the guy who altered evidence way back in 16 and 17, when they first started spying on President Trump's campaign. And we know that because of the Inspector General. God bless his work. So put everything in context. Remember, this is the Justice Department that treated moms and dads as domestic terrorists. This is the administration that's going to unleash 87,000 IRS agents to harass American taxpayers and American families. And now we know this is the administration that raided the home of the former president of the United States and likely Republican presidential candidate in 2024. So these are... Sometimes I just step back and say, I cannot believe this kind of stuff is going on in the greatest country ever. And it's, I know, shocking to all of us and a concern, certainly.
So because he says so much what we all agree with, and he himself is a patriot, it's like, okay, so, you know, you want to look at the other two who are in and on it too, as far as the same mentality. Do they agree with him? And what we're seeing as he speaks about this is a lot of positive head movements, no real looks of dissent from what he's saying. We're not seeing, you know, a thought process that says that's not true. We see a lot of positive. Yes, which is normal. That's why, you know, non-liars aren't that hard to read, and they're likable.
I heard it from our constituents over this past week as I was traveling around the district. They don't know what to believe. They're so nervous and so scared by what they've seen.
Johnny, I listened to you depose Jim Comey, FBI agents, prosecutors. You were a former federal prosecutor. When you reflect on how they handled Secretary Clinton's case, do you see differences in the way the feds treated her versus the way they treated President Trump?
Well, Trey, I have to imagine that you and Jimmy and I were among millions of Americans that were choking back disbelief when Attorney General Merrick Garland was talking about how the Department of Justice and the FBI were committed to the even-handed application of the law to everyone, including Donald Trump, when the FBI and the Department of Justice so clearly, as Jimmy pointed out, they don't have clean hands on this matter. And you mentioned Jim Comey. You have an FBI director who has admitted that Donald Trump was treated differently under the law than Barack Obama and Democrats. Remember, you had an FBI director in Jim Comey who, when you talk about a disparity of treatment, wrote an exoneration memo 2 months before he interviewed Hillary Clinton, knowing that Hillary Clinton had dozens of classified, highly sensitive, compartmented information in her possession before dozens of other witnesses were interviewed, and wrote a memo clearing her. That very same FBI director, Jim Comey, on his book tour admitted, I did things to Donald Trump that I never did to Barack Obama or would have tried. So think about that. An FBI director who's admitting, I applied the law unevenly. I applied my authorities unevenly because it was Donald Trump and Republicans. And, you know, and to that point, that FBI director, having cleared Clinton before he ever talked to her, opened an investigation into Donald Trump after he had learned that the Russia collusion allegations were actually created by Hillary Clinton, and then went so far as to lie to the FISA court and verify a dossier that he knew to be fake to continue spying on the Trump campaign. So, you know, the American people unfortunately see that when it comes to Republicans and particularly Donald Trump, that for the past 6 years, we have an FBI and a Department of Justice that have literally become the enforcement arm of the Democratic Party.
All right, Jimmy, I want you to imagine if the FBI agent investigating Hunter Biden was as biased against him as Peter Strzok was against Donald Trump. What do you think Politico's reaction would be to that? What would the D.C. media's reaction be if the Bureau agent was as biased against Hunter Biden as Peter Strzok was against Donald Trump?
There would be no other news that you would see. I mean, we all know the answer to that question. We all know the response to that rhetorical question. So but understand the template here. The template never changes with these guys. It's the left creates a lie, big media, mainstream press reports the lie, big tech amplifies the lie, and then when we try to tell the truth, they call us names and try to cancel us and tell the world that, oh, we're the ones not being square with them. So the country, though, the good news is they figured it out, and I'll tell you who else has figured it out, Trey. And you and John, with your background in law enforcement, appreciate this. 14 FBI agents have come to our office as whistleblowers, and they are good people. There are lots of good people in the FBI. It's the top that's...
So I like this part. 14! These FBI whistleblowers. He says, before that, the American people have figured out. And what do we see in the facial expression? We don't see a believe me look. We don't see stress. We see a lack of stress. We see more excitement. It was like, oh, this is good. Now watching the other two as he says this, or Radcliffe, he shifts, so he's stressed, but he's giving the positive head shake. Why this stresses him, but it also makes him in a positive way, we don't know. It's really hard to speculate because we don't have any parameters on that to sit there and say, oh, that was the key word that he stressed on. But regardless, he's happy about it. Trey, he's pretty mellow in his reactions, but we see the positive there.
It's the problem. But some of these good agents are coming to us telling us this is baloney what's going on. The political nature now of the Justice Department, God bless him for doing it, coming and talking to us about the school board issue, about a whole...
So God bless him for doing it. And Radcliffe comes with, you see that slight smile that comes on his face. Yeah, it's happiness. Thank you for doing what you're doing.
Host of issues. I mean, it's becoming a well-worn trail of agents who say this has got to stop. And thank goodness for them. And thank goodness that the American people recognizes it. And I believe they're going to make a big change on November 8th.
Well,
big change November 8th. And Jordan is very happy about November 8th. Big change November 8th. Not a believe me look. Not a I'm trying to rally you. Because that's the other part that this believe me look would do, is I'm trying to rally the troops. Apparently he doesn't need to rally the troops. The troops are already rallied. Goes tight-lipped, and it's kind of like it's a roll up. So he doesn't want to say anymore. The lip is rolled. It's a hunger. November 8th's coming. November 8th's coming. But it's like, of all the times we've seen him with elections coming up, and this is the pivotal one, you got to do this one. I've never seen the excitement this big. And to see the other two's reaction to this, we're going to go back and look.
To say this has got to stop, and thank goodness for them, and thank goodness that the American people recognizes it, and I believe they're going to make a big change on November 8th.
Well, Jim.
So he says, thank goodness the American people recognize it. You see the slight positive in Trey Gowdy, and you see the positive from Radcliffe, and he believes the American people recognize it. We're going to sit there and think that this is a little bit delayed because of the earpiece. It looks like it's spot on, but a little bit delayed. So either Radcliffe believes that the American people recognize it, or Radcliffe is a little bit stressed on November 8th, kind of like he's not counting his chickens first, but he is positive about it.
I mean, speaking of calling people names, you may have a new name come January. It may be chairman of the House Judiciary Committee. If I were, FBI agents and DOJ.
Chairman. Oh, that was a good one. So now you've got the thought process. Okay, so what is Jim Jordan's mind on this? Because obviously everyone is already talking about plans. If you actually think that they wait 5 minutes prior to some election or thought process, you are wrong. They know this now. So we get a little chuckle out of Radcliffe, but it's not a sarcastic chuckle. It's a yeah. Like, you're excited about a rock star or something. That kind of chuckle. And we see from Jim Jordan, we're going to have to back up.
People names, you may have a new name come January. It may be chairman of the House Judiciary Committee.
So we got a big swallow there. He knows what's coming. He's got that rolled hunger look in his mouth. It's like, okay, this is looking good. And by the reaction as it comes through, I'm going to say that there's not much of delay in these earpieces. It's pretty much spot on. Oh, man. The Republican Party apparently is hyped for this November 8th election. And they're counting on all of you on getting out there and voting. because that is the only way it's going to happen. Which, after the last election and that disappointment, it's kind of like, oh, do I want to play this game again with these fools? Nope, but I'm going out one more time, and so should all of you.
If you like it, please share and subscribe. Thanks for watching.
To be notified of all videos that get released, because not all of them can be posted here, in the description is a link to our Telegram channel, and if you subscribe, you'll be notified of every single video, and we don't spam it with anything else other than video releases.